So I'm working on a project right now called In Search of Hannibal. It's about Hannibal crossing the Alps. It's like a historical epic type thing. I'm inking up some pages right now. And it has a particular style to it because it calls for it. The story calls for a certain kind of look and feel, a kind of vibe to the story. And it's interesting to me because it brings up this whole issue of style and artists and having a particular look and feel to your work that's consistent for your entire life. And then it makes me think of social media and what works, what doesn't, what I see other people doing that works, like studying other artists who are really, really good at it, what they do, what they don't do, the frustrations they have, all the concerns that people have right now about, say, Instagram and the algorithm. If you're an artist, it's totally broken, it sucks. But it's interesting, this idea of artists having a style. And as a kid growing up, reading comics, guys like Mike Mignola or Frank Miller, Todd McFarlane, I'd look at the work and I'd be like, yeah, man, I love that guy's style. He's got a cool style that I totally dig. And then years later, you look at their work and it's like, yep, Mike Mignola's doing Mike Mignola. He's still doing that and it's still great. I still love it. But I find it interesting that it's like, does he have a secret room someplace where he does a whole bunch of other work that he doesn't show anybody because it's not in his particular style? When you have a social media presence on Instagram, do you have to curate a particular look and feel? Because newsflash, you do. The algorithm rewards that. But creative people, in my mind, I could be totally wrong, but in my mind, creative people are always exploring, always looking at different types of things, always going different places creatively. They're not looking to just make a style. I draw noses like this. I do a little whoop-de-whoop, ba-doop, ba-doop. There's my signature nose, and from now on, that's what I'm gonna do, and you'll know me by that thing. This is how I apply a particular type of line weight, and I will do this forever and simply refine it and just hit repeat on that because that's my shtick. I find that so unsatisfying, and that's something that I've never really been interested in. And so I've got this Hannibal project on the go, but I also just had a book come out called Silverwing. I've got some copies here. You've got like the American softcover, American hardcover, which is beautiful, and then the Canadian softcover. And it's in a completely different focus. It's not going to focus. Maybe I'll throw some screenshots up. It's in a completely different style than, say, Hannibal. It's an animal story focus. It's an animal story. It's very cartoony. It's just a completely different deal than the Hannibal thing. Other work that I've done, like say I've got this like Modo, Ember's End. It's more of a young YA type thing, similar to Silverwing. Very cartoony, very over the top sort of animated type style. It's like a kooky young adult steampunk western. This is a young adult animal story that's also pretty kooky. Really wild. I love it. By the way, this is great. Everywhere books are sold. It's out. Silverwing, written by the most excellent Kenneth Opel. Maybe you've read the series that he did. A killer series. Anyway, we adapted it into a graphic novel and it's out and it rocks. So everywhere books are sold, you can pick up a copy. So if you got young people in your family, if you got kids who have been reading like Dogman and that kind of thing for Christmas, bam, here you go. This is like the next level up. But yeah, it's the style thing. And it's, Silverwing or Modo is very different from Hannibal, obviously. It's a totally different thing. This is like adult. There's violence and all kinds of stuff. It's an adult audience, a much more mature audience. And then I've also got, say, on the complete other end, a book called Spirit of Yule, speaking of Christmas coming up. And the style in this is actually, it's very like, it's kind of storybooky cutout collage type photo bashing kind of stuff. It's a completely different type of look and feel. It's a story about basically Yule, old school Yule, not Christmas, but Yule, but the history and such. if you're into that kind of thing. So yeah, this is also available. I'll have links below, blah, 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 blah. What I'm getting at is style, man. I love doing this. I love doing Spirit of Yule. It was a completely different type of vibe, look, feel, everything, audience, story, the whole bit. Completely different than Silverwing, although everyone could enjoy either. But it's a completely different thing. And then you have Hannibal over here, which is totally different from all of that. And I mean, I've got a lifetime of kind of working professionally, and there's a ton of different stuff. And I always think about this whole thing about the style, because I've had people say to me, oh, you know, the people who read Silverwing will probably read Hannibal, vice versa. And no, probably not. No, because it's different audiences. It's like different strokes, different folks. There might be some crossover. I'm sure you can enjoy it if you just like comics and you're of the right age and that kind of thing. Then yeah, you probably would. You can go both ways, but it's this thing where, like, when you're an artist and you're not particularly interested in having a super specific lockdown look and feel forever, it's a weird thing. It's like, it's a strange thing. And I think about this like a lot because of, say, Instagram. Like, if I were to just post whatever I like on Instagram, which I should really just start doing, like whatever I'm working on, it would be incredibly chaotic because I'm always doing kind of different things because I love different mediums. I love exploring and experimenting with stuff. And that isn't rewarded in this day and age, especially with algorithms and this kind of thing, and with commercial art, and with people having an identifiable style, aka brand. It's a disservice to your artistic growth, to me anyway, because you're limiting yourself. I mean, I'm interested in, you know, animal stories for young people, like, say, Watership Down or this kind of thing. I mean, I love that stuff. I'm interested in that and creatively working on things like this. But at the same time, I've also got a German black metal video coming out in the new year. I mean, I love both ends of things, and I want to do a little bit of everything because creatively it's far more interesting to me to explore different things and to see it as a challenge. I've been listening to Tetragrammaton with Rick Rubin, and he had this interview with Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails, and it was kind of interesting because he was talking about how he's really enjoying working on commercials and TV stuff or film stuff and this kind of thing because he likes working with different people and sort of solving this kind of creative puzzle. And to me, that's exactly it. It's really fun dipping your toe into different worlds. And I think because I've been a working artist, whatever that means, I've done storyboards on different animated things and video games and this kind of stuff. It's like you're working on kids' cartoons, very young kids stuff one year, and then the next year you're working on, you're trying to figure out a really good way to sell this headshot, in a shooter or something. So it's like this different kind of thing, or doing like concept art across the board for like different types of genres and mediums and subject matters. You sort of become really flexible. And if I'm looking for a job, luckily I'm not right now because I have a job doing Hannibal, but if I'm looking for a job, I could basically build a portfolio for anything. And that's not being braggadocious. It's just a fact. It's like, yes, I can draw cats and dogs. I can do like different things across the board. I can basically build a portfolio for any gig, because I've got kind of a lifetime of exploring different stuff. That could be doing clip art type stuff for loot boxes in mobile games like Subway Surfers or something. Or it could be doing storyboards for the kids' cartoon, So it's interesting. It's this idea of style. I would really suggest to young people, I see this with young people, that because they're so wrapped up in social media And I never was growing up like art, like I didn't have it. I had an analog childhood, right? So there was no social media. So luckily in those early days of my development, I just kind of saw stuff that I liked, gravitated towards it, and sort of played with it in the, sort of this big sandbox of making art, whatever that is, whatever it is. I like my first, well, I guess not my first, one of my earlier gallery shows, if I could dig up the work somewhere, it was a whole bunch of giant oversized abstract expressionist paintings that were like 8 feet wide and like 5 feet high, and it like toured around and stuff. And I did like dozens of these things, and because I was going through an abstract expressionist phase, unfortunately. And now it's all embarrassing and it's all pretty cringe, but I'm really glad I went through it, because it was just, you know, it was something that I had to kind of go through at the time. And I went through that for years. I you know, did the old school stretching canvas and throwing paint around and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and it's this part of your development and part of your growth artistically that I think a lot of young people are missing out on, because they focus on curating an Instagram feed because the algorithm rewards it, and you end up just being, and this isn't taking shots at anybody, but you end up just being one of those young artists who just does cute girl headshots over and over and over again. You end up just doing like, well, I draw cartoon girls like this over and over and over again. And you end up like just repeating yourself because you're being rewarded for a certain type of thing. And there's a lot of people that I really love. Who would they, like say, the names are gonna fail me. Bill Ellis, I think his name is. Mika Ulrich. Anyway, different artists. There's a million of them. Sorry. There's a million artists that I love that have these very cohesive pages because they do a particular type of work, and it's great. It's fantastic. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? I'm not like banging on anybody who has a particular thing that they do kind of on repeat like that. That's perfectly fine. But I find it interesting with visual art because if you're a writer, you can adopt a pen name. And I guess this is why I kind of like the idea of pseudonyms, and why a lot of artists, you know, if they want to play around with AI or NFTs or this kind of thing, they're going to create a pseudonym because, well, a lot of the people in the art world are going to, you know, if the cause du jour is hating NFTs or AI, they're going to freak out over that. So they want to playfully experiment with something, but they don't want to do it publicly, so they create a pen name. And you see this with authors all the time, like Stephen King or Nora Roberts or whoever. They'll have a pen name when they want to write a different type of work because their audience expects a very specific thing. So in a way, you become enslaved to the people who enjoy your work, which I can't imagine there being anything better than that. That has to be great, right? But at the same time, what if you want to do something completely different? So the problem is that you kind of almost have to sacrifice a little bit of your brand or your commercial success or your identity in a sense, because it's not going to be cohesive, because you're going to have people that say they come to you like say with me, they follow my Instagram feed because they're interested in Hannibal, and they're like, where's Hannibal, for Christ's sake? You know, so they're there because I'm sharing Hannibal work as I do it. But then if I start throwing down other stuff like say Silverwing, it's like, what is this? This isn't what I'm here for. I'm here for this specifically. But if you're a creative person, you do different things. And a lot of people don't really get that, because we are in this infinity loop of just repetition and branding. And it's a weird thing, this whole idea of art needing a brand. And I mean, artists have always gone through different periods. And you can say like, well, go back and look at like Arthur Rackham or something. And, you know, yeah, he has a cohesive look and feel to his work. But then again, he was a commercial artist that was being paid to do work that looked like that. You look at like a David Bowie or something, or Picasso, the work is all over the place, and there's tons of experimentation going on. If those people had an Instagram feed, it would be all over the place, because it would just be tons of shared experimentation things going on. You know, it just wouldn't be that like I draw heads from this angle using this palette, copy, paste, repeat. It wouldn't be like that. So this entire thing is, I think the algorithm and the dissatisfaction that artists are having with Instagram is actually a really good thing, because I think that people need to break free of the idea of having a style. I find it so much more rewarding to do a ton of different things that are completely wildly apart from each other than just focus on one particular niche. You know, what you end up sacrificing in that is if you're doing that one particular niche, you'll niche whatever, potato, whatever that thing is that you're doing, you'll be known for it. And then you'll get kind of that, you'll get that renown in that particular thing. So you will end up sacrificing some of that. But at the same time, if you don't really care, if you're in it for yourself, selfishly in a weird way, or in service to the project itself. And that's the thing. I feel that you should do the work that serves the project. And if you want to do one particular kind of thing, you want to do zombie horror your entire life, great. That's awesome. You know, Rob Zombie does Rob Zombie really well. There you go. Tim Burton does Tim Burton really well, although he does like branch out. But if you have a particular thing you want to do, yeah, go for it. But if you're like me, you want to branch out and you want to try and experiment with different things. So with the algorithms breaking down and the reward systems not really being there on social media, I see it as nothing but a good thing. Stop caring about your followers, as bad as that sounds. Care about, you know, the development of your own work. Who are you there for? If you're all just concerned about getting the right amount of likes on posts and stuff like that, you're not going to be really developing. So there you go. This is just my own 2 cents. Branch out and learn from everybody, from wherever you can get it from. You know, reach out and explore and play with different stuff. Don't just copy and paste the stuff that you like, and don't fall into the trap of the dopamine hit, you know, when you're rewarded for repeating yourself. You know, it's not a good thing. I don't think, anyway. So this is my own thoughts on it. So Silverwing, ba-bam, everywhere books are sold. If you're in America, I guess you could go to, what is it? You guys have Barnes & Noble, Target. Sorry, I should probably know. Barnes & Noble's a place, right? I know that much. Barnes & Noble and all that kind of stuff. Costco probably. It's basically everywhere. Canada, same thing. If you go to any Indigo, they'll have copies, or chapters, or whatever it is. Or support your local bookstore. Yeah, so check out Silverwing. Also, Christmas is coming, and this is very much themed for the season. So you might want to check that out as well. If you are a fan of, say, Norse mythology, this is then definitely right up your alley. So there you go. That's it. I could go on forever. I apologize for rambling. Yeah, and now I'm going to feed the beast. Like, subscribe, da-da-da-da-da. So thanks for letting me ramble, and thank you for your time. And we'll see you in the next one. So cheers.